episode, but it's a breaking news episode, and I actually wanted to report on this last week, but decided to kind of wait and see how things transpired. And I'm sort of glad that I did. But there's a lot going on, and hopefully you can stay with me. And then tomorrow night, I do not have an interviewed guest, but I will likely be doing another live tomorrow night with some additional information, and or maybe just taking some live questions and answers. So thanks everyone for tuning in so far. Hi, Everett, Laura, Kimberly, Michael. There's a lot of people I've already said hi to in the live chat, and I'm going to try to keep up with that as much as I can. Little nervous. My last live, which was my first one, was a little all over the place. So hopefully this one goes a little bit smoother. So a lot of times when I'm doing breaking news or a new episode, I will kind of build up to what the episode is going to be about. And in this episode, I'm going to actually do the quite opposite of that. And so I don't take any pleasure in reporting this, but it appears that your CHN ambassador, Bishop David Amos, has been terminated from World Harvest Church. And he was placed on administrative leave a little over 10 days ago. And the decision was made to move forward with terminating him. Now, I do know that an outside company was hired by World Harvest Church, an HR company, to actually do the investigation of the claims being made against Bishop Amos. And it appears that they, gave the word that he should be let go. So in this episode, I'm going to be discussing this, but I'm also going to include some other information that I've actually had for quite some time, but it never seemed to be the right time, or an episode just didn't lend enough credence to discussing it. And maybe that was the Lord, saying, be patient, this is going to come. And so hopefully, again, you guys can stick with me, because it may seem for a moment that I'm kind of going on a rabbit trail, but I promise you everything will tie in together. So let's see. Hey, Robin, breaking news. Hi, Paula. Okay, be true, deliverance. Hi, everyone. Looks like Pastor Dan, retro reviews. Hey, everyone. So, like I said, your CHN ambassador, Bishop David Amos, has apparently been let go from World Harvest Church. And again, he was placed on administrative leave. So I'm going to kind of lead into this a little bit, and how this kind of transpired. And I want to first show a picture, and this is straight from David Amos's Facebook page. So this is going to be a picture of his office several months ago. So I don't know exactly how long ago that was, but you can see, he's got all of these Rod Parsley quotes up on the wall here, and then, his living legacy and all of the things here. Now, here is what Bishop Amos's office looks like now. So as you can see, there was a lot of stuff in the office at one point in time. And then now it seems that almost everything has been cleared out of the office except for, the CHN jacket and maybe a few other things. Now, I do know that several CHN pastors have been trying to get a hold of him while he's been on this administrative leave. And apparently they're not getting any information. Where is he? Why isn't he there? But also, I find it funny, or maybe it's just par for the course, that yesterday in the sermon that Rod was a very short piece of, that he mentions that David Amos is going to be preaching on some Wednesdays, knowing full well that he was not going to be. So, that's another lie from the pulpit. But I also have some other information that I will sort of get to. So, like I said, there is kind of a backstory to all of this that, again, it might seem like I'm kind of going on a rabbit trail, but I think it's important to set up and show what this ministry mentality is, at least at World Harvest Church. And it's unfortunate that we even have to be talking about a so-called ministry this way, but that, again, there is corruptness in every facet of the organization, it seems. And I think that Bishop Amos, because I'm going to show here in a few minutes how him and several other people have been tasked with covering up things for the Parsleys. And I believe that Bishop Amos and maybe other people in that ministry believe that they can behave however they want and they're going to get away with it because the Parsleys get away with it. But if your last name isn't Parsley, they're not going to cover for you. And now that they seemingly wanted to do the right thing, at least in this situation, by hiring an unbiased outside HR company to come in and do this investigation, maybe they're, trying to toe the line at this point because they think that it may be reported on. But I'm glad for that fact, but also, why are these things even going on in the church? And they've been going on for a while. And it's because Rod and his family do what they want. It's the head. It starts at the head and it flows down. And just like I said before, these people that are close to him are going to start becoming scapegoats. Now, do I believe that David Amos did something wrong and now he is going to be held accountable for it to a certain extent? Absolutely. But do I also believe that there's more to that story? I do. And I want to kind of start with the fact that David Amos, at one point in time, was pastoring in the Nazarene church. And it was down in Ashland, Kentucky, and Ironton, Ohio, which, funny enough, that's where I was born. And my dad actually lives in Russell or Flatwoods, Kentucky, but it's like a suburb of Ashland. And they're right across the river from Ironton. So right there. And so at one point in time, not to make this story too long, but at one point in time, Amos was going to receive his ordination in the Nazarene church, and he was caught having an emotional affair. That's how it's been described to me, with the lead pastor's daughter in that church. And so it was reported, and the Nazarene church, or the assembly, told him that they were going to shelf his ordination and that they wanted him to go through a restoration period before they would consider reinstating him. Well, unfortunately, he kind of went off the rails because he lost his first marriage due to that, and kind of just went down a dark road. Well, at some point, he did maybe get back on the straight and narrow. I don't know that for sure, but he decided that he wanted to get back into ministry. Well, he couldn't go back to the Nazarene church because they were not going to give him his ordination because he refused to go through that restoration process. But who would give him an ordination? None other than City Harvest Network, Rod Parsley, World Harvest Church. And several of the people at his church, Impact Church in Ironton, that helped him start that church, did not want to be underneath CHN, but Amos pushed forward, and he went ahead and got his ordination with CHN, put Impact Church underneath CHN. And then shortly after that, I was told that we were hiring him. I didn't interview him. I had not met him. I was just told to do this paperwork with him. And then eventually he would, become full-time. He would move his family to Columbus, Ohio, and he would move up the ranks. Well, in moving up these ranks, he was, starting to take on the mannerisms of Rod Parsley. He was starting to use his vernacular when he was preaching, and really became like Pastor Rod Parsley's like right-hand man. And so he then started to be given more responsibilities. He was traveling. He was over, different areas of the church, not just City Harvest Network. And he was known to, he could be very hard-nosed if he needed to be, and would be sent in to, intimidate at times. And so you then see the man from, a couple of months ago, who is this CHN ambassador. He's traveling around. He's preaching at different churches everywhere. But all of this time, unfortunately, it appears to be for at least 8 months, he was sending very sexually charged and explicit text messages to a staff member at World Harvest Church. And it also has been reported that there may have been several other women within the organization, maybe some teachers, that were also being harassed by Bishop Amos. And when the one staff member just could not take it anymore, she finally reported it. And that's when this company was called in to start investigating. And I have not been able to speak to any of these victims, but I'm hoping to. But I also, want to take this time to, again, go through some of this Rod Parsley behavior and how, again, it flows from the head down. So I'm going to take a look here at the live chat. Okay. Leadership reflects attitude. Wow, there's a lot. This would be a lot. And Timo said Impact wasn't always a CHN church. It started independent. Yes, and Timo was the one that gave me that information when he was on Everett's podcast, Ohio for Freedom, that the church did not start off being underneath CHN, but that was David's wish that it would become a CHN church, which it did. Which I've also found out that more recently, I believe Isaac Carpenter is his name, is the young man that was tasked with taking over Impact Church, and it appears that they have left CHN. Not sure exactly why, but they are no longer a CHN affiliate. So we come back to, why do so many people, especially that work closely with the Parsleys, why do they think that they can behave however they want and get away with it? Well, I have some ideas, and I think that you guys probably already know why this behavior continues, and it will continue to be a problem because head leadership has major issues with integrity, with their moral compass. And it's just a free for all over at World Harvest Church if your last name is Parsley. So I'm going to show a quick video of one of the first reasons why Bishop David Amos may think that it's okay to harass and send sexually charged and explicit text messages to female staff members.
'90s, rocket. Come on out here.
So the name of the boat was Visitation.
Visitation, what?
This was back in like the 180 seat building.
Yes.
Back in the day.
Yes.
So when someone would call the office and speak to your secretary, your administrative assistant, excuse me,
In the Bible, those are called
politically correct.
concubines.
That's
So, as you can see from that video, this is Rod saying that secretaries or administrative assistants are also known as concubines. And the congregation seemingly laughs about that as if that's a funny comment to make. And maybe they thought that he was joking, but I don't think that he was joking. And I think that unfortunately, we can now see the trickle down effect that this mentality, and again, Ashton and Rod behaving however they want, and then tasking other people to cover things up, to intimidate people, whatever the case is. And David Amos is just a chip off the old block. Now, before we go forward, I want to also state that what I know about David Amos, because we did work together for a little bit of time, is that he definitely worshiped, or maybe still does, Rod Parsley, kind of like Rod worships Lester Summerall. And I believe that David Amos would have a Rod Parsley room in his house, had he been given a chance to do that, just like Rod has a Lester Summerall room in his house. And the worship of these men is strange, first and foremost, but it goes further than just having a healthy admiration or somebody mentoring you, especially in the case with David and Rod, because again, here in a moment, we're going to discuss a situation that David and several other people were involved in, and it was covering up some things for Ashton, and Rod was well aware of this, and it's it's the ministry mafia. I'm going to show you the ministry mafia of World Harvest Church, at least how it stands these days. And again, top down, starts from the head and it goes down. So I'm going to kind of start with how this all comes about. Well, actually, let me actually play, before I start how this all comes about and how it ties in. I want to show just yesterday's church service where Rod just came out for a little bit of time, but he's talking about he has to have knee replacement surgery and that he's probably not going to be back until November 17th. And that in his absence, there are going to be several people that are preaching for him on Sundays and Wednesdays. And Amos's name is mentioned, and so is someone else's. Matthew Cutter, and we're going to discuss him here in a couple of minutes. But here is that video, and then I will then go into this whole other situation that happened when I still worked there and what transpired after that and how it ties into all of this corrupt behavior.
Something in the room. Thank God for our vast audience of many hundreds of thousands across America. God bless you. But there are some things that get rubbed off on you when you're in the house. Oh, thank you for that. I can tell who's here by those 3 groans I got. And on Wednesday night, I mean, what do you, if you're chasing an anointing, Wednesday night's when you'd be here. Not the least of which is that handsome gentleman over there, taller than everybody else, our own senior elder, Bill Canfield, who we love so much. And we've got Professor Brian Oswald, and we've got Bishop David Amos, and we've got Pastor Justin Metters. What a job he did Wednesday night, man. You outran your coverage on Wednesday night. I'm telling you, I was shouting in my recliner, and I gave a double offering.
So that was yesterday. That's Rod saying that Amos is going to be preaching on some Wednesdays, knowing that he was going to be let go. So again, why can't we be honest about these things? Of course, we don't want these things in the church. But the fact of the matter is these people, and I'm talking about the Parsleys, have been corrupt for I don't know how long and treating people like garbage for I don't know how long. And then they're shocked when other people are behaving just like them, and then they fire them, but they keep these other people employed that are, pedophiles and sleeping around and having homosexual encounters and using drugs and just a litany of things, you guys. And these other people are being terminated for probably less egregious behavior than Ashton and Rod and some of his counterparts. So I want to go into this story because it's, or experience, I should say, because it's very strange how it all came up and how this was one of the first times where I actually started collecting information, if you will. So I'm going to show this too because this was one of the first things that I saved. And again, God's timing is perfect. Sometimes you just have to be patient. It's a virtue. It's, one of the fruits of the Spirit. I don't tend to have much, but I'm working on it. It's something that I'm working on. And as I get a little bit older, it's getting better. But in September of 2021, I received this email. And this email is from Megan Hassett. And she is asking me, the email was actually sent to her and she forwarded it to me, which is crazy in the first place, but she forwarded it to me and asked me if I could help. And this was for an employment verification, which I'm going to show now. Employment verification for LC communities. Now, this was strange for several reasons. I knew that Ashton owned a house in Pickerington. So I'm like, why is she getting a condo or townhouse up in Dublin? And it just seemed strange to me. So I just kind of, like I was always doing, just kind of keeping my ear to the ground and seeing what I could find out. And so I did obviously save the email and I saved the employment verification, even though it's blank, because I didn't actually have at that point in the payroll system the executive payroll was on a completely different system that I did not have access to as the HR director. Only very few people had access to it. And these are the people that were in the inner circle, not me. But I did one time receive all the W-2s. And so I do know what everyone makes there, including the executive people, or at least what they made in 2021. And so I received this employment verification and I just thought it was super weird. And then I heard, work study students, Valor kids, were being sent over to Ashton's house in Pickerington to clean it, to go through her things, to sell off her things. There were other work study students that were more maintenance inclined that were being sent over to her house in Pickerington to clean it up, to get it ready, apparently to be sold. So some time goes by, and I do know that she moved, and she sold her house. So I thought maybe she just wanted to make the money. Well, later I come to find out that she had a boyfriend at the time, and not that it matters, but an African-American boyfriend, which Rod would never approve of her dating. And they were cohabitating in this condo townhouse up in Dublin. And she wanted to be on the other side of town so that her dad and her mom could not just show up. And so she's living with this guy, and he happens to have a child with someone else. Well, as they're living together, I don't know exactly what was going on during this time, as far as her involvement in the ministry, but I would say it was probably average involvement. We're talking September of 2021. And so this guy that she's living with, she buys him a truck. They're living together as if, they're trying to create this perfect little family. Well, I don't know the exact date, and I wish I would have saved it, but I'm showing pictures and I'm naming names because, again, this all happened when I was there, and a lot of stuff went down. So one night at about, 10 o'clock at night, at that point in time, I was going to bed at like 8 o'clock because I got up at 4:30 to go to the gym because it was the only time I could go. Not that that totally matters, but it's part of the story. So I get a text message, which of course I didn't see until the next morning, but I get a text message from this guy. And he works in the media department, and I think he's a great guy. I had a great relationship with him while I worked there, and always seemed to be a stand-up guy. He sent me a text message, which again I didn't get until the next morning, that said, "Miss Robin, can you please give me a call or text me back, because Sharice and Megan have asked me to go over to Ashton's condo and remove some things, and I think that it sounds very fishy." And so, I didn't get it till the next morning. And subsequently, he had reached back out and said, "Never mind. They explained everything. It's all good. I took care of it." And this was apparently when he was being tasked to go over at night to remove a Ring doorbell camera and some other things from this condo townhouse. And he thought it was strange, and it was. But I wouldn't know how strange it was until kind of later on. So I subsequently found out that Ashton had caught this boyfriend, who's now her ex-boyfriend, in the condo with his baby's mama, and she had a fit. I believe the cops showed up. all kinds of ruckus was happening, and I don't think that she was written any tickets or anything like that, because I looked on Franklin County and I don't see anything. But after that, she leaves, and subsequently, I don't know exactly how long she stayed in the condo or townhouse, but she does stay. She ends up leaving. But the issue with this boyfriend or ex-boyfriend now having this truck that's in her name that she paid for. So then we have, this is where we're going to kind of tie all this in together. These two guys, David Amos and Richard Burkhalter. And I will say about Richard, I had a great relationship with him as well, and I think that him and his wife are wonderful. But the fact of the matter is that they're still attached to this ministry, and they're being asked to do things, and they are doing them. And David Amos and Richard Burkhalter were tasked with going and finding this truck and stealing it back, and getting it back to the Parsleys. And then someone else that works for the ministry, this guy, Brian Ferris, he it works with all of the high donors, so he is responsible for bringing in all the big bucks. He was tasked with putting the truck that was stolen back by David Amos and Richard Burkhalter, putting it up for sale and listing it. So I thought that was pertinent information, because the Parsleys do say behave however they want, and then they have all of these people around them that are tasked with covering up their messes, covering up their criminal activity, covering up things that would ruin their reputation or humiliate them, and get it, or try to keep it from the public eye. But then when something else happens to these said people, then again, they're discarded like trash. Now, again, I'm not saying that people should not be accountable for their behavior, but what I am saying is that, why wouldn't people think that they can do whatever they want and get away with it when they work underneath these people and they are tasked constantly with intimidating people, with committing crimes, with covering things up? Why wouldn't these people think that they can behave however they want and get away with it? Now, I just found out recently in this situation with David Amos that when he found out that this staff member had gone and reported him, that he then there is a new pastor, so-called new in local church. He tasked this pastor. This is Matthew Cutter. David, you know who David Amos is. The other guy is Matthew Cutter. He was tasked with going to this female staff member's home to intimidate her, and to try to stop the truth from coming out of what she was reporting. And then all along, we know this guy, Bill Canfield. He knows it all. He knows where all the bodies are buried. And he is also involved in what we like to call the ministry mafia at World Harvest Church. And they are tasked with covering things up, intimidation, whatever needs to be done to make sure that Rod Parsley and his family and his ministry do not go down the tubes. And if it weren't for these people and the litany of people that came before them, other than Bill Canfield, that they probably would have been investigated, or things would have come out about them a long time ago. But they make sure to keep these people around them And, like Carol said, they make sure that your hands get dirty too, so that if it ever comes up, you are more apt to not say anything rather than tell the truth. And this is the culture that they have created. And even several weeks ago, I believe several weeks ago, David Amos found out that one of the pastors in CHN, because he's the CHN ambassador, that one of the pastors in CHN was having an emotional affair. And David Amos sat this pastor down and put him on a sabbatical. All the while, he's out here sending sexually charged and sexually explicit text messages to at least one staff member at World Harvest Church. But the report is that it was several. So again, this is the culture that's created. These are the people that are involved and are covering up the messes. And people need to open their ears and eyes and start thinking with their brains here that they're leading a lot of people down the wrong path. And these poor congregants and other staff members have no clue what's going on. And they just see this nice picture of Rod and friends on stage and in the pulpit. And they're not listening to all these other things that are going on that are being reported on Megamaniacs and Ohio for Freedom and the Refiner's Fire and Mr. Who and Truth Be Told. And the list goes on and on of podcasts that are out here discussing this. And they don't care. They are liars. They do not care about people. They care about themselves and they care about their money, and they're willing to sacrifice whoever they need to make sure that that their reputation sort of stays intact. I don't know how it can at this point. So I also included a few other things because I just think that it's pertinent to mention. And I'll take a quick look at the live chat. I mean, y'all, thank you so much. I see there's 242 people on here. That's crazy. Thank you so much. Jennifer Martin said one crime after another. Remnant Thunder said Attorney General David Yost needs to convene a grand jury to indict, subpoena, and charge them all. And Bill Canfield does whatever Parsley says, and so does everybody else, because they don't want to face the wrath of this guy. Okay, people are really scared here. And maybe there's reason to be, but he's carrying around a gun. He's got guns throughout the ministry. He doesn't care to shoot them off with inside of the building. They threaten to kill people. It's wild. Okay. That's all I can say. It's just wild. But, Rod surrounds himself with these sycophants. And I just wanted to put this out here, someone who praises powerful or rich people in a way that is not sincere, usually in order to get some advantage of them. I don't know if that's everybody that's around, but, either they think that they're going to hell if they support, or if they don't support Rod, or they're just in too deep at this point that they're too scared to get out, and probably worried about being blackmailed themselves, because they've been privy to all of this information and they do nothing about it except for whatever Rod and Ashton and the inner circle tell them to do. But the inner circle, you guys, is falling apart. And again, I am not happy to report on these things, but people want to keep preaching and talking about forgiveness, and forgiveness is great. I'll be the first one to admit it. I wouldn't be where I am in my life if I was not forgiven, and if the Lord did not soften my heart so that I could forgive the long list of people and experiences that hurt me throughout my life. But we also need to talk about accountability. And people have been getting hurt here and abused here for decades. And now I don't know if this is the Lord. I don't know if the Parsleys just don't care anymore, and so they're not as stringent about things. I don't know if it's just the corruptness is running so rampant in the place that people are just overtaken by it, and they're just running wild. I don't know. But I do want to talk about a couple other things. So I did pull up adult clergy sex abuse in Ohio. And unfortunately, Ohio, as it stands right now, doesn't have an actual law against this, but it has been mentioned in several cases where people have been abused. And we're talking about adults too, not just kids, but we have kids that have been abused at World Harvest Church, and we have adults as well. And it is a crime, because people that are in the position of a pastor and leadership, they are not to use that to use and abuse people, and to take advantage of people and manipulate people. But again, David Amos, has learned from the best, unfortunately, and is kind of a chip off the old block. But I also want to put up the Ohio Revised Code, section 2907.03. And it talks about sexual battery and sexual conduct. And the last one on that list, because it's talking about what occurs when the offender is engaging in this behavior. And the last one is has supervisory or disciplinary authority over the victim. And I do know that, unfortunately, in this situation, because of the elevated position that David Amos was put into, that these victims at World Harvest Prep would fall into that category. And I'm sorry to you guys, even if they are not, that you were put in a position where you had to put up with this kind of behavior. I recall an incident when I was 19, and I worked in a company where I was the only female, but I was, much younger than all of the other males that worked there. And one day when I was in the office alone with one of the males, he touched me inappropriately, and I had a natural reflex to that, which good for me, bad for him. But even in that moment, I was terrified that I had done something wrong, because I was trying to protect myself even without thinking about it. And it's such an uncomfortable situation to be in, regardless if you're male or female. If you're being harassed in the workplace and it's somebody that can fire you, that has power over your paychecks, that can destroy your reputation at work, can alienate you at work, and other people go along with that. That is a very unfortunate situation to be in. It's uncomfortable and it's scary. And it's scary no matter how old you are, but especially when you're younger and maybe a little bit more naive. And you almost feel like if you want to keep your job and stuff like that, that you may have to go along with this stuff. And the fact of the matter is that is just not the case. And so again, I don't know what tomorrow is going to bring, but that I don't know if I will be doing another live kind of as a follow-up to this live, or if it's going to be more of like a question and answer. My interview that I had scheduled, unfortunately, had to reschedule. And so I do not have an interview for tomorrow, but I believe I will be doing a live. And again, it's either an update on what I'm reporting on tonight, or some breaking news, if you will, because my understanding is that the staff at World Harvest Church is supposed to be informed tomorrow, but you know, everybody knows now. So how is it going to be handled? I hope it's handled correctly. And I hope that the staff members, I hope that the congregants, and I hope that these CHN pastors are opening their eyes and ears and seeing what's going on here, because this didn't start with David Amos. It's not going to probably end with David Amos. And it does start at the head. And as I mentioned, they surround themselves with people that they can manipulate, and they can put into positions that will cover up for them, and cover up, these crimes and these absolutely outrageous situations that they seem to get themselves into. So I hope you can join me tomorrow at 7 p.m. for whatever I'm going to be reporting on, or a live question and answer. And thank you for all of you that have tuned in. Sierra says, Lisa says, thank you, Robin. Sierra says, thanks, Robin. I'm so glad we aren't alone anymore. When I tried to say something in 2017, it was awful. I'm so glad it's different this time and people are listening to us. And that's what this is about. People have, again, if they're stuck in these positions, they cannot continue to allow themselves to be used and abused by this place and by these people, because it's going to happen, and then you get caught up in your hands being dirty too. And then are you going to go down with the sinking ship, or are you going to say enough is enough? We're not going to stand for this anymore, and get right with God, go repent, go and get in a good position, and then maybe give a sincere apology for how you've been behaving and manipulating and controlling people for all of these decades, and then fire them for less egregious things than you and your daughter are doing. So with that, I will end the episode. Thank you so much for tuning in, like I said, and I look forward to tomorrow night. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.